So here we are. Right. She just came in to tell me that she wasn't ready. She just got out of the shower. Now I'm talking into the mic again, given the pregame. Um, Before I started this, I was thinking about all of the mean things that I would say to people. I was doing my own Lincoln letters. Oh, here she is.
Hi,
Welcome to the show.
thank you.
I say show as if we're having a show. Is this a show? Show enough.
Live radio,
Yeah.
but
I feel like I'm going to be a cantankerous old man. I'm
I can see that.
cantankerous already, and I'm not that old,
That is accurate.
but I feel old.
Do you?
I do.
Mm.
Nothing is new to me anymore.
Mm.
That's not true. The things that are new to me are not, mm, they're not unknowable, if that makes sense. That wasn't a very good description. So, mm, I'm learning about backend development, right? So, this means that there are multiple coding languages that are um, that I'm using. So SQL is the base one. That's the database. I swim in data with SQL all the time, and SQL is basically just a script version of Excel. It's how you mix and manipulate tables to get them to look the way you want them to. So Python then is the thing that is next that allows me to interact, because we were talking about this earlier today at lunch, is that Python allows me to connect the dots between different data sources and other things like that. So as I get deeper into backend development, my Python skills are having to um, elevate, which is cool because I'm discovering all kinds of shit that I can do with this tool.
Mhm.
But again, I get the basics. It's not really surprising. It's like I know that there will be more things that I don't know. I don't really have a lot of aha moments, like really big epiphanies that aren't down some mm, that aren't granular. Does that make sense?
I think so. So when you come down and you say, "Oh, this thing really clicked for me," what you mean is you were already staring down the path and kind of had a visual sense of what was coming, and then things are just clarifying as you move down the path.
Correct. So let's say we've got, 1 through 5, and 1 through 5 are different subjects. Well, what I have is 1 through 5, or 1.1 to 5.1, but in many cases, it's like 5 levels deep. But now I'm at 2.6.9. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or like, 1 point, you know, 1.10.50. So I'm like really deep on one vertical, and then I'm like midway on some other vertical, and I already know what I'm gonna find. I just don't know how they're necessarily gonna connect to each other.
Mhm.
Um, and this is a conversation I had with my dad a while back, is he's like, yeah, you know, you understand what he said. He said, you understand, A through F, but most people only understand like B and C and a little bit of D, you know? And so you're going to constantly be spending your time trying to fill in the gaps for other people. Because this is one of the things about knowledge, and theory of knowledge is something that's interesting to me, because metacognition is my jam. My primary skill is acquisition of skills, and so you get to this level of acquisition of skill by understanding how the mind works. And the mind mostly works the same way data engineering works, right? Hey, what do we just talk about? Extract, transform, load. So I go and I intake a YouTube video. I drop that transcript into Perplexity. It now gives me a breakdown of the argument map. And then I go and I read that argument map and then I turn it into a visualization. And then now I can explain that, hour-long YouTube video after 15 minutes of reading and about 20 minutes of drawing. So instead of spending the whole 45 minutes just consuming, I've only spent about 15 minutes consuming, and then I've spent the remaining 30 minutes doing something with it. So that's the same process that I'm following whenever I build a data pipeline, for my company, for my customer. So when I look at these things, one thing, 10,000 things, I'm looking at what are the activities that have the most overlapping impact, right? And what is the thing that's going to have the highest ROI? So what's the highest return activity that also has the most overlapping benefits with other activities or other outcomes that I want? So when I look at how skill acquisition occurs, I'm like, oh my God, it's so dramatically similar to data engineering. And so when I'm learning a new programming language or expanding into a programming language, I'm not surprised at what I find because I know how the learning process works and I have enough mental models to run through this learning process. I basically just need upgrades on my tools or to sharpen the tools that I already have so that I can use them to greater effect.
Mhm.
On top of that, I just don't get excited because excitement is a trigger for disappointment for me.
This makes me very sad.
So I think I'm just going to be a curmudgeonly old man because, um, you know, I'm I'm not surprised by the future because that's my job is to predict the future all day. And so I'm constantly asking the questions of, you know, where have we been? What can we infer about where we're going?
Mhm.
And what is the optimal path? Which, is me just being an oracle. And because I have consumed information from so many different disciplines, then I start to see uncommon patterns. And that's what I do is I look for patterns all damn day.
You
And
see them
so
everywhere.
then I go and read something and I'm like, oh, wow, that pattern looks like this pattern from this other discipline. I
Mhm.
wonder if they're related or if I can use this model as a template for understanding and for communicating my findings to someone else by way of allegory. So, what do? I tell stories with data.
You tell stories all the time in all kinds of ways.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, I'm good at telling stories um, with words, and now I'm just telling stories with code, and charts.
Yep.
Yeah. And I would love to spend more time telling these types of data stories around um, family and parenting and people and population, um, around the development of young people, and stats about why the why AI has sort of disconnected the mentor apprentice model, because if all of the jobs that junior people would be doing at big companies are now being done by mid and higher level people
Mhm.
using AI tools, then there is now a chasm from graduation to mid level, which was already sort of there, right? You know that there's that like, well, how do you get experience if you don't have the job, and how do you get the job if you don't have experience, right?
Mhm.
That's now made worse with the use of AI tools, because now what you know is largely irrelevant. It's what you can produce with what you know that matters. It has always mattered, but before there was a lack of access to information.
Yeah.
Now we have unfettered access to information, and we have a demand problem, or no, we have a supply problem, but it's not like we have too much supply. And what we need now is a filtering and sorting function, which again is back to SQL. That's all that shit really is it's sorting and filtering.
So when you say we have too much supply, does that mean we have too many people who can do these jobs?
We have too much access to information, and we are generally, as a species, bad at making decisions.
Yeah.
So humans are good at pattern recognition, but what we're not great at is making calculated decisions. So this is the reticular activating system, the lizard brain. It focuses on, the five F's, right? Freeze, flight, fight, feast, and fornicate. Then your
Mhm.
limbic system, that's the inside out, that's your emotional brain. And that's, you know, anger, sadness, disgust, fear, and joy. Um, and then if you make most of your decisions, and by the way, we are geared to start out with those, 10 decision making criterias kind of as a base, right? And so um, when we make those decisions, we have, ultimately, what are you going to do? And your RES is going to basically just look at do this, do that. Now, when you add feelings on top of it, feelings will tell you, um, well, this changes how we should do this or why we should do that. And then your logic brain basically has an infinite amount of decision trees that it can make. So if you're making, decisions from your lower two brain functions, then you only really have 25 options, right?
Yeah.
Total. Whereas if you use your neocortex, you have a
In
virtually limitless array of options.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in the modern um, digital context, it's a race to the bottom, because what salespeople learned and behavioral economists learned, and we talked about this a little bit last week, is that all we have to do is shut off your higher brain function so we can get you to make emotion based or visceral decisions,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's what people do, is they're just cue routine reward. They're just running scripts over and over and over again. Um, and they've stopped being people, and they've started being automatons, basically, because uh, programmers have discovered this overlap between how we process information in our brains and how they process information digitally. And with that overlap, they're basically just installing malware inside of your brain. Because they're like, oh, let's get these engagement circuits, right? So what I'm looking at then is okay, if someone can install malware that just gets you to, you know, chase the dragon in a, continuous doom scroll, or in a, oh, here's some new information about something that I already agree with, but it's just another bit of ammunition that makes me mad, right? Oh, the MAGA people said this. Oh, the, snow cone people said that. Like, I'm so angry. And then you go on to your phone or your device to relax or unwind, and you leave your phone exhausted because emotionally you have just been like triggered over and over and over again. And
Mhm.
this is this is what social media tells you to do, is that it's like they want you to get a hook. And so that's why they call them hooks, is because you're scrolling and they want to hook your attention, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And so now your attention has been hooked, and let's see how fast we can sell you this thing before you unhook yourself, little fishy, and then go and swim somewhere else. They're trying to reel you in with a story. And Wired for Story, God, I'm blanking on the author right now, but she says something to the effect of, our brains are designed for this. And Randy Ingermanson, Snowflake Method, for a story. He writes, I love this book, by the way, because he writes the book on how to write stories as a story.
Oh, that's good.
And he basically starts out by saying the reason we tell stories is to know evolutionarily, like what shit to avoid.
Hmm.
Hey,
Yeah.
don't go into the woods without a spear because something will eat you.
Right.
And so they tell a story about a kid who goes into the woods without a spear and something eats him.
Right.
Woo.
The small red berries are poisonous.
Yeah.
We found out because so and so ate them and it was terrible and they hallucinated and yeah.
And so now you have your hook story call to action. And so the hook gets you to stop scrolling, grabs your attention, and it grabs your attention because what they need is to get something that is emotionally or viscerally inflammatory. Because negative emotions, just looking at our five basic inside outs, negative emotions are 80% of our emotional register. Joy is like the positive emotion, the end. you know and yeah, they all like bifurcate, and you can make different combinations to get a different like color palette of emotions, but for the most part we are mostly negative because we, in hunter gatherer times, are trying not to die by everything.
And that's how we protect ourselves.
It's the cruise.
That's and fear and yeah.
Yeah. And so like when something feels good, that is the anomaly.
Yeah.
What? And so, well, okay, now that we know how psychology works, the computer programmers are like, okay, cool, let's build something to hack your psychology
Cool.
and to give you viruses. And I'm like, fuck, where is the, I was going to say McAfee, but that shit is like so heavy and it
Right.
screws up your system just as
A
much as it,
lot.
protects stuff.
Yeah.
So where's the virus protection for mind viruses? You know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
We are not good as humans at our own pop-up blockers and noise reduction.
precisely.
Yeah.
And so that's what our kids are going to face in the future, is they need to have good mental immune systems, psychological immune systems. And the same way, and this is why I love that nutrition period where I look at pyramid where I look at physical and mental,
Hmm.
because what is happening is we've got a weakened physical immune system because of all the junk food we're consuming, and then we have a weakened mental psychological immune system because of all the junk information, the junk data we're consuming.
Right? Yeah.
And as an analyst, I spend a lot of time cleaning bad data. There's a bunch of holes in it. Somebody didn't validate this field on the onboarding side. So now I got to go and figure out what the hell they meant. Or they miss, oh my God, this is the worst. Well, we couldn't send this person an email because instead of Gmail, they spelled Gnail. And so now I've got to go and fix their email address, but the email address is tied to their login. So if they type in Gmail, then they won't get in,
They won't be able to log in now.
right? But
Oh,
if we keep it Gmail, then I can't send them out a marketing communication.
ah,
Awesome.
great, 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 great. Super cool.
So this process of data cleansing is what I'm doing in at work, but it's also what I'm doing in my mind constantly. And most people are not doing this sort of frequent data scrub to get rid of all of the junky ideas, information, and influence that they've received from uh, a lifetime of, oh, my dad said something to me once upon a time when I was a kid and it really hurt my feelings and I've just kept that in me. It's like, well, maybe you should not hold on to that shit or like figure out what is it
Put that
actually,
down.
right? Maybe you should go and instead of just let that be the P, right? And the princess and the P, just
Hmm.
get that shit out from under your bed,
Hey,
right? But then a lot of the time we talk about, this is what psychologists do. And this is why I'm not a psychologist. I'm a witch doctor because I've read a bunch of the therapy shit. I've read a bunch of the psychology shit. I've read a bunch of management technique. I've read philosophy. And a lot of it's all similar. And I actually think that management philosophy is better than therapy because what therapy often focuses on is etiology, where you've been in the past, rather than teleology, where you're going in the future. And I think you should spend 20% on etiology and 80% on teleology. 80% look ahead, 20% look back. And so because your look back is giving you the descriptive and diagnostic statistics or analysis. The look forward is the predictive and prescriptive. And so I think a lot of therapists are basically gym bros. They're somebody that you pay to help you get in shape, but not all like workout coaches are created equal. A bunch of these gym bros are just there and they just give you a generic plan and they're like, yeah, like do reps, man. Like I'm trying to get you shredded, bro. But are they really helping you? Are they helping you like understand why it is that you have this habit of late night snacking or why it is that, you keep coming in, um, and drinking soda, or like why you're hiding, like why you're hiding chips from your wife, like an alcoholic hiding the booze,
eating Taco Bell in the driveway and then throwing it away in the neighbor's trash can.
right? Right?
Yeah.
Bad workout coach isn't gonna catch that shit. They're just gonna be like, oh well, try again and then like come pay me again, bro. Right? Same thing with therapists.
Forever.
Now you've got a whole new cadre of people who are like, oh, I'm gonna do psychology because it's like an easy major and it's interesting, right? Like I'm interested in how people work and I like to psychoanalyze people, you know?
Cool.
And and so now they can go and like have a license to be judgmental, um, and only work with the people that they
Yeah.
already like and agree with, and then tell them that they're completely valid.
Validate them. Yeah.
Yep. So now you've got, and I mean, again, this is a bell curve thing, right? You've got really great therapists who know their shit inside and out and will help you resolve a problem. And then you've got the average person, the average therapist who's like, they're doing some good, they're doing some not so good, right? And then you got the shitty ones. And the shitty ones are like those, that's like that gym bro. But I feel like the number and like the volume of gym bro therapists has increased because, oh wow, there's a bunch of mental health stuff. Everybody's talking about trauma now. So let's go and do mental health. And you know, it's become fashionable to tell people
So,
what your emotional damage is, which I don't fully understand. There's a level of transparency, but also like how does this help you to tell me? How does this help me? Because what I hear is, okay, here is a thing that I have identified is a limitation, and I want you to now treat me differently because of this limitation.
mm,
Whereas I think about it as a predisposition. If you have a predisposition, that doesn't mean that you are impaired indefinitely. It just means, or well, it doesn't mean that you can't succeed. It just means that you're going to have a harder time than average,
mhm,
right? If you
yeah.
are predisposed to obesity, that doesn't guarantee that you will be obese. It just means that you will have to work harder to not be obese compared to the average person.
Mhm,
Psychologically, it's the same shit.
mhm.
You know, I have a predisposition to a bad attitude, but that doesn't mean, and your dad and I were talking about this because he and I can both commiserate on the sort of Eeyore factor. But Jonathan Haidt wrote a book called the Happiness Hypothesis, and he has this or let's see, happiness hypothesis, happiness equation. I'm looking it up here. But I thought the book was Happiness Hypothesis. It is. Okay. And then he's got this really great pie chart. And it basically says where your like what determines your happiness. And 50% of your happiness is genetics. Then 40% is your thoughts and action, and 10% is external circumstances. Yo. So when I saw that, I was like, no wonder. So I am probably genetically predisposed to negative emotionality. However, it's also kept me alive. But that being said, if I want to feel better, then it's 40% on my thoughts and actions. So that is the place where I can actually control and have the highest impact. So that's where I go. I'm constantly policing my own thoughts and actions. So I'm not overridden by my genetic predisposition towards negativity, which is why I can say I am always optimistic, but frequently have a poor attitude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great self-assessment. And look, you just did that in 10 minutes without the aid of a therapist.
right. But not everybody's mind works like mine.
This is true. And part of the whole social media age is we've made it um, much more socially acceptable than I think it used to be to complain and to air dirty laundry in public.
Yeah,
And this whole thing with like therapy culture, like you said, am I saying therapists aren't valuable? No. There are some great therapists, and some people really need to be with a professional to help them work through some things. But this whole thing where we are like casually trauma bonding with everybody that we meet, like flashing our trauma to
Hey, do
see
you want to have
your
like a
trauma,
casual, like, situationship trauma bond?
right? Does your baggage match my baggage? Let's spiral for a minute and let's
It's
complain
like
about it,
it's like the Harry Potter hat, and it's like, oh my God, we got matched to the same baggage.
right? I actually saw a comedian who I struggle with sometimes, that young blonde girl.
Oh, the one who's got like the dry delivery?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. She was saying something like that. She's like, do you ever go on a first date and you realize that they have childhood trauma and you have childhood trauma and you like can't wait to talk about your childhood trauma? And I was like, I have never thought that.
No. No, I don't.
No. So it's like, and that it's so funny. You started this being like, I feel old. And I was like, I don't feel old, but what I just said made me feel old because I'm like, I don't want to participate in the like social media dirty laundry airing. Like the whole thing is very, I don't know, I have an ick about it. And I'm like, I'm happy when, because I believe in being vulnerable and honest, but
Yep.
I also believe in like propriety.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was telling Milo last week was public-private secret. And it's like, bro, you keep everything secret. And so I don't have any feedback coming off of you.
Yeah.
And then when you say something, you sometimes say the exact opposite of what you meant. And so I don't know whether or not to interpret that as a lie or as I forgot, because he frequently will say, oh, I forgot, or this is what I meant after the fact. But what I told him was like, look, whether it was an intentional deception or an accidental forgetting, either way, your words are unreliable. So I can't if I can't verify the veracity of your claims, then I have to look for an alternative source to validate you. And what was it on Saturday? All of the boys were, playing games, and I'm like, who ate my ribs? And like, yo, also, I was like, not cool, dudes, because they all threw him under the bus. And he was like, no, I didn't. Look, first off, he said, I didn't eat them. And then everyone's like, dude, we saw you eating them. And then he's like, okay, well, if I ate them, I forgot. And I was like, bro, you sound like you're just trying not to get in trouble. You like, and he might have legitimately forgotten, but if I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I'm like, bro, the evidence is not looking good in your favor. It is
Yeah.
not looking good. And so now I am both hangry and my like judgment face is on. And I'm like, I don't want to scold him in front of his friends, but I'm like, I want to eat my food. And like the savage in me is just like, punish him.
Right. Like who took my food? And it's so funny. You did end up having a very reasonable conversation with him, and one of their little friends was like, are you a lawyer?
I know. And I was like, I should be, shouldn't I? Huh. Huh.
Right?
Yeah. But that's that's the thing is that I'm looking for reliable reliable data sources, and I understand that I'm not going to get them. But what happens with a lot of these sort of like psychology terms and sort of you know trauma bonding language is what it does is it really narrows your availability for intake. So it basically says I can only be talked to in this one very specific way that I prefer, rather than, oh, I can intake information from anybody, anywhere, anytime, right? No, no, no. This is my preferred learning style, and you have to communicate to me in my preferred way. The problem with that is most people don't give a fuck. Most people aren't going to put forth the energy to learn to communicate in your language. Like, here I am learning just two coding languages. And what did I tell you? I was writing in Jupyter Notebook, which outputs JSON files. So I'm writing Python scripts in JSON. Mind blown. So again, it's not that complicated, but at the same time, what I'm doing is I'm translating languages. And so, computer engineers, these guys will learn a different language just to operate a different function of their software.
Bananas.
And so you might have like three or four different languages being run at the same time in one app, you know? And the guys are specialists maybe in one or two, but everybody knows at least the basic functions from all four, all five. And so, like, the more languages you know, the more variability you can have in intake. And we were talking about this is like, we have friends who all of their friends are them, like they're the same person. And my friends, I'm worried won't get along at our celebrations because they're very, very, very different.
Hmm.
Different places, different walks of life, different age ranges, different cultures,
Different viewpoints, the
different
whole.
viewpoints, completely different politics. That was funny. We were on the phone, and by the way, now we're at the end again, and I'm like just now getting into the topic that we said that we were going to discuss. Um, but we had my brother and his partner over for the weekend, and she is prego like the sauce, um, and like we're just talking, and he and I got a chance to hang out, and you and her got a chance to hang out, and then we're hosting them for the weekend, and then we get a call from our other friends who are military and are overseas, and um, it was like, oh my God,
Night and day.
night and day. And then what did I say when we were in bed? I was just like, yo, it's teamwork. I just like random, like I feel like I woke you up and I was like, teamwork, it's teamwork.
That's the answer.
And it's not that my brother is not a team player. It's just that he and his partner could use some better team dynamics, right?
Yeah. Some more like focused intentionality in
Yeah.
their partnership instead of just like they definitely have this beautiful ease about them. And it's like you guys have been together a long time. You clearly know each other's rhythms and routine, and you're very comfortable with each other and committed to each other. And there's a lot of love and affection between them. But there's not a lot of order or intentionality
Yes.
behind what they do. They're just kind of haphazardly moving through the tide together instead of
Yes.
like taking a turn to swim and pulling the other along. Like they're just kind of riding waves.
Yeah. And this is why I like the ship metaphor, right? Is that I've been in relationships where, and this is one of the gripes that we were talking about with a lot of modern women specifically, is that they will want to get onto a guy's ship that he has built, and then they want to be the pilot. And he's like, this is my ship, though. I'm the captain of the ship because I built the ship. And she's like, yes, I'm gonna need the I'm gonna need to steer. And he's like, but it is my ship and I am the pilot of the ship. And so I do the steering. And she's like, well, if you're not going to let me steer, then let me off. Or like, well, we're not going to enough island vacations. And he's like, but we are going after the treasure and we might have to fight pirates along the way. And everyone needs to fight, right? And she's like, no, you're going to defend me. You've got the crew. Your crew is going to defend me, right? Well, everybody fights when the attack happens from the pirates. We will protect each other, but the pirates don't care whose ship it is. They don't care, you know, male, female, they don't care. They're pirates. They just want booty.
Mhm.
And they might want your booty.
And
So
it's so funny because that same friend that we talked to over the weekend in the military once said to me, she was like, yeah, I'm all for equity. Let's put women in the draft.
yeah.
See how they like their equal rights and responsibilities then. And
Yeah.
I was like, fair point.
Right?
They want, and I don't think this is just women, but
Mhm.
probably predominantly women want equal say without equal necessarily like responsibility or service.
Right. And so you want all the rights without the responsibilities. And this is human. This isn't male female.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the challenges for the men folk, and so we picked on the women, so let's pick on the men. The problem with the men, and this is the problem with my little brother, if you're listening, leadership. And so my leadership equation is vision times the quantity management plus mentorship. And I have heard over and over and over again women say, I love a man who can teach me something. And I'm like, oh, cool. Now, that doesn't mean be a nerd and lecture her all the time, but it's like, oh, I feel I'm a better person, right? Like this is one of those beautiful like love story romance things when they're like, he make me want to be a better person. And that shit's real. And you know what that is? That's the mentorship component.
Mhm.
That's the vision component. So, you are teaching me how to not burn people's faces off with my anger every time I feel this, which is constant. And, I'm better. I'm I'm better than when we met, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Yeah. And I'm teaching you some business stuff. And so the thing is, like, this has always been one of my sayings is that everyone I meet is my superior and my inferior. I always have something to learn and something to teach. And I think that attitude seems to be lost on a lot of men, especially young men. They are like, I want that bag, and bitches be cray, and they want all this stuff, and it's like she's holding you to a higher standard, my guy, and you are just failing to meet that standard. You need more virtue.
And I think there's people, again, ungendered on both sides who are like,
Yeah.
oh, I would like somebody else to take care of everything for me.
Yeah. And we talked about this too with you know, the guy used to go, off to work, off to battle, and then he comes home and the homemaker makes the home and he can now go and relax from battle, and she like makes him something in the nice space that she has cultivated explicitly for this purpose.
Mhm.
But now, with both parties going off to battle, both parties come home exhausted. Who's got what?
Right?
Right?
In
Who's
fact, I saw another comedian whose name I don't remember, female, who was like, man, we are teaching women that they can have it all, a family and a career. But do you know how much more successful I would be if I had a wife?
Yep.
Some nice, loving woman, loyal to stand by my side and put the duvet cover on the duvet and purchase a bunch of fruit besides bananas. Like, she was just like, if I had somebody to home make, then I could come home and enjoy that. But we're both working and nobody's
Yeah.
making. And this is such a circular conversation for me because I desire to home make
Hmm.
you, but I have also been in a position where that type of labor and care has been completely devalued and underappreciated. So
Yeah.
that's a fight that happens too, is that if a woman does stay home, it suddenly becomes well, what are you doing all day? Or how do you quantify the value of that labor? And does your partner do you have a good agreement in place? Does your partner appreciate what that requires? Are you living up to the standards that you agreed to when you put that, partnership in place? So there's
Mm.
lots of complicated layers to that discussion.
And this is one of the things that I actually was talking about with Jason today, is that you know he's like, man, I really gotta, like, I want to settle down, like the holidays, being back home and all this stuff was
Seeing those cute nieces.
yeah, and it's like, oh man, and he's like, oh crap, I got to do this thing, and he's like, but what do I do? Do I go after the homemaker type, or do I go after the boss bitch type? And I was like, dude, you realize that the quality that you want is the same. It just manifests two different ways. The quality is industriousness. A housewife can be just as industrious as a boss babe. They're just one in, and I actually told him about like sales, right? You've got hunters and farmers. The hunters are like big on outreach, but the farmers are the ones that like cultivate the relationship, cultivate the account, make sure that the customer feels welcome, customer is satisfied with the service. So, you know, the farmer is a type of industriousness that tends to be more like the homemaker. And the hunter is more like the industriousness that tends to be like, the outgoing salesperson. And I said, bro, like, you strike me more as a hunter. And so it would seem like for balance, you'd want a farmer. But he has it in his mind, we're both hunters. And so he wants to go and have that. But then who is cultivating the home for him? And, we've been friends a long time, and his relationships have been like, he tends to get, I don't know if the word is bored, but he's disappointed when he finds a trad wife, like a trad wife type girl, because what he wants is he wants the ideal of, the boss. And he wants to like rule the world. And he's like, we're going to rule the world together. And it's going to be, and I'm like, yes, but like the quality you need is industriousness. It doesn't matter if she's hunting with you or if she's farming for you. Um, and the way he is, I actually think he would do better with a farmer, but he's got it in his mind that he wants the hunter. And so when he goes after that, you know, and it doesn't work out, I'm like, I don't want to say I told you so, but I feel like I'm saying I told you so a lot lately.
Yeah, this is weird to say though, because we're the same age as him. But I'm like, I also feel like he has a little bit of growing up to do because
Yep.
he's a bit of a hunter and a wanderer. So if he gets a nice little farmer and the dynamic would really take care of each other over the long term, he goes out hunting and then he gets distracted and forgets about the good thing that's doing the other side of the job for him at home. And he's like, oh, this is more exciting. And now the thing that I have at home doesn't look so great to me anymore.
Yeah.
So he's gotta learn some focus and some maturity, I think. Um, having
And
a
that's
partner like that.
right. And so, and this is what he said, right? He's like, man, I'm counting calories. I'm back in the gym. And I'm like, good, good, good. And he said, he's like, oh, I heard this Jordan Peterson quote. And he's like, something to the effect of, you've got to be the type of person that attracts the type of person you want. And, and I was just like, oh, I could have told you that shit 20 years ago, homie.
Right? Yeah.
you know because I've been working on that, and sure enough, what do I say, right? Like, you're perfect for me. And it's because I became the type of man for the type of woman that I wanted, and I got her. And what I told Jason is the same shit, is that it doesn't always look like how you thought it would, right?
And
i
that's a hard
got
lesson.
I got exactly the quality. I was like, are you sure? I don't know about it. Are you sure? And this is the same with my best friend. This is the same with Jim. Jim is like everything I've always wanted in a best friend. And sure enough, he's great. But he annoyed the shit out of me for years. And I wanted to beat him up, but I couldn't because he was stronger than me and a better fighter.
There though. You got
But
there.
we got there because he was just like, he just kept showing up for me. And I was just like, I don't want to talk to you. And he's like, okay, we'll talk later. And he calls again.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you anymore. Well, we're talking, aren't we? We'll keep talking. Shit, fuck. And then I'm like, man, I need somebody to talk to. I'm gonna call that guy Jim that I don't like. And he's like, hey man, you want to talk? I'm like, yes. And he's like, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I get you, man. Like, yeah, totally. And I was just like, we're friends, aren't we? And he's like, yeah, we're friends. I was like, great, you're great. Let's be friends.
Besties.
Right.
So
Now we're
sweet.
besties for like 20 years.
Yeah, it's so adorable.
Yeah.
You guys are sweet.
Yeah. So what I want to now close with, I suppose, is hosting. And we were talking about this a little bit before about how much pressure, people put on themselves or others to be hosts. And I heard a great quote of like, if you want a seat at the table, then, set the table yourself,
Mhm.
set up an invite. So, what do you think? What say you?
Well, I was going to say this is another, I think, consequence of the social media era, just like the whole like airing of the dirty laundry thing that we were discussing earlier, because you can see all these pretty pictures online.
Mm,
Everybody feels this pressure to like, oh, if I'm going to host a thing, I need to host an Instagram worthy Thanksgiving that's like beautiful and perfect and like elevated or something. And it's like, no, you do need to like clean the bathrooms and put fresh sheets on the guest bed before you have
yeah,
people over to your home. But it doesn't need to be all that. It doesn't have to look a certain way. If you've just moved into a house and you want to host Thanksgiving, none of your loved ones are going to care that you still have boxes that aren't unpacked.
yeah.
You know? Like, and nobody cares if you don't have like a matching tablescape for every single holiday.
I'm telling you what, though, my sister-in-law,
She's great.
oh my God,
She's on
her
that
her
shit.
house, her house is like insta ready.
It
Every
is,
time I
and
go over
she's
there, I'm
so
like, why is it that I've like stepped into a department store or,
it is,
like
and the
setup?
table is always set with like napkins and napkin rings and like platters and chargers and candles and centerpieces. And
Yeah,
I'm like, it's 2 p.m. Is this for dinner? It's just always like that. And she
it's
decorates
always like that.
for every holiday, Valentine's Day, Earth Day, all the things like 4th of July. She has like mantle decor and table decor for every
Yo,
theme.
the whole
And,
theme.
and that's amazing. And she loves it. And she has had the resources and capacity and stability of environment to collect those things over the last 20 years. And she loves putting them out. And I'm like, that is great. And there's a part of me that wants that too. But the
Yeah.
whole point of this conversation is that not having that is not a good reason not to host people.
Yeah. You don't have to go that hard.
And if you can't go that hard or you're building up to it, you don't need to wait until it reaches whatever benchmark you have in your mind as perfect to have people over and enjoy spending time together.
Yes. Yes. And that's the trade-off, right? How do you keep it simple, but still make the place inviting, still make it so people want to come to your house, they want to come back. Um,
And
and
that's always been a big thing for me is I want my home to be a place people like to be.
yeah, the RZA, oh God, I'm gonna have to find this thing. The RZA talks about how he's got two houses, and one house is for him and one house is for the guests. And I was like, what? And he's like, I have like 200 stairs, you know, that you have to climb to get to my house. And so people don't want to come over. Then he's like, that's my house for me and the wife. And then he's like, but when I want to like hang out and I want to chill, then you go down 200 steps to get to the house. And so you don't want to leave.
I think that's great.
Right?
That's great. And sure
Yeah.
enough, we are not in a space right now that's technically large enough for us.
Mhm.
In this sort of transitional place, we are missing things and it's not as organized or decorated as I would prefer in my mind.
You are giving this podcast from a closet.
Yep, there's our water heater that I share my days with.
Uh-huh.
Um, but at the same time, your uh, brother's fiance casually mentioned to me over a text that they were hoping to see that, his side of the family, but no one's really doing anything. And I think I came to you at lunch that day and I was like, let's invite them. What do you think? And you were like, yeah, let's do it. And we
Hmm.
didn't change our menu. We just like had the kids sleep on the couch and, tidied up their space and put clean sheets down. And we just included them and incorporated them into our traditions and routine. And they seemed relaxed and joyful and happy to be with us the whole time. And they said several times how good the food was. And, I got to prepare several meals. We did Thanksgiving together. You did the main event, and I like did the side dishes around you and we presented this beautiful meal. And then the next day, like you and your brother were playing some games together. And I was like, should I make everybody plates? And you were like, that would be great. And I got up and made dinner and I made brunch for everybody on Saturday. And it was just a lovely,
And we took them on our regular, like, our outing, our
took
family
them on
outing.
our family like nature walk that we do on Saturdays. And you got to like, play some Baldur's Gate with your brother. Two things you never get to do. You never get to play Baldur's Gate and not
Yeah.
alone with your brother. And we all like
And
just
we killed it. We
you
blew
did.
up that dude, you
And you
know.
got the magic sword and it was
And I
great.
was proud because he's further in the game than I ever got. And I showed him something that
Going
he
back to the
didn't
beginning,
know.
he's like, this is strategy I never would have thought of. It was so cool. So
Yeah.
he had a great experience and she had a great experience. And, she's pregnant and thinking a lot about family and stuff like that. And it was just lovely to have them here. And we literally invited them like with less than a week notice. And I think they confirmed they were coming like the day or two before.
Yeah, and we didn't know. He checked in with me. He's like, "Hey, can I bring the dog?" And I was like, "Okay." And then I just texted you, "By the way, the dog is incoming." Like, okay.
Literally day of, they were already on the road when I found out about the dog, and I was like, "We'll make it work," and we
But
did.
it worked. But what also we got to do for them is we held on to the dog so that they could go on a date.
Yeah,
Because that was the other thing is that they're on vacation. They don't come to Seattle like all the time. And so it
we had
was,
to work on Friday, so we're like,
yeah.
leave the dog with us and go have a good time.
And they like, yeah. And then they went out and they took pictures and they had a great time together. And I was just like, I'm really happy that we could provide that space for them, you
Me
know?
too.
Yeah.
And we welcomed them, and again, they seemed relaxed and joyful and like they felt loved and welcome the whole time they were here, even
Hmm.
though the house is undecorated and we don't have a rug and our TV's on the floor and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was great. And the mattress that we had for them, while a real mattress, was also on the floor, but the sheets were clean, the bed was warm, and the environment was loving. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we hosted them instead of saying, oh, we're not ready for that.
And I only yelled at him once,
So great. So great.
and we hugged it out.
You did. And you got over it very quickly. And you did great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
But I feel like we gotta I feel like we gotta do some kind of a thing. Like what's the outro? We need an outro. I think it's so funny. We are so unshowy, despite both of us being performers and know how to perform. This is like the most candid shit,
I know because I'm just like, oh, I'm talking to my husband, my favorite person ever. And
right?
I forget that like other people are going to listen to this conversation.
Yeah. I also have to remember that sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't say that on the air. You know?
It's so funny you have a microphone in front of your face, but we still forget, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's so maybe that's the way to end it. We forget because it's so wonderful for us to talk to each other, even though we're at home together all day. You're up in your office doing work. I'm down in my hidey hole office doing
Hobbit hole.
my little Harry Potter closet,
Uh-huh.
doing work, and then I'm so excited to see you at the end of the day. And that's the thing, all the onlineness, all the crazy chaos of life, seeing your people in person is worth the effort. And
And
host
that's what I've
host your
yeah, that's
people.
what I've been missing. I
Yeah,
keep cutting you off. Go for it. Finish, 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 finish.
I think that was it. I'm not sure where I was going, but seeing your people in person is worth the effort. Don't only communicate on Facebook. Like, throw the invitation out at the last minute if it feels right, even if you don't think your house is quite ready.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
together. It's worth it.
And that's what I've been saying to you, for months now, is I've just been so, you know, scuba diving in fucking work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, I have this vision in my mind where I'm like in the deep ocean, and I'm just like by my damn self, and there's like, I don't know, a deep sea manatee or some shit that like swims by, or like a whale,
Mhm.
and then there's just fucking nothing, and it's just me, and I'm like, I could use some people in my
Yeah.
life. But then all the people that I deal with on a regular basis are like coming from my job, and they don't like want to hang out.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to just bullshit with me.
Yeah.
I've only got like my one work friend, you know.
And
And,
it's been extra challenging for us this year, I think, because ironically, I think we have been doing better recently,
Mhm,
seeing more people, but we also spent the entire summer displaced
mhm,
our space and our home. And we were in this temporary housing where you were spending probably 20 to 22 hours a day in the same room because you were working there, we were sleeping there, we were
mhm.
unwinding there because there was no television downstairs. So besides coming down to eat and like go outside if we needed to go somewhere, you were spending 20 plus hours a day in one room doing different activities. And that's really not good for you, the human person, especially you in particular.
Yeah.
It's not good for anybody, but it's not really not good for you. So even though we've been seeing more people, I think you've been feeling so caged and stuck
Yeah.
and trapped. And so a little bit more is still not quite enough to overcome that. And the whole point of this is, we just had Thanksgiving and the whole weekend I was so grateful for you and our family and how hard you've worked this entire year to get us through all these hard times and keep us all afloat and still be a good, husband, father, mentor the whole time, even though everything's been really stressful. And I want not only for you to have some relief, but I want to show you how much I appreciate you by trying to facilitate more of the things that you need.
And I would like to be more positive. So like I would like to not redline all the time so that I can be more positive. So people will want to come on our ship and not just think, oh, he's hoisted the black sails, like because I
Always.
am in black sail mode kind of constantly.
Yeah.
And every time somebody sees a pirate ship, they run the other way. And I don't want to be throwing off, pirate vibes. I would like to be more inviting
Yeah.
and I would like to have more, more of these hosting opportunities, more company, more people, more network. Um, and because I'm a big social butterfly, but nobody knows this in my most recent iteration of life because I've just been in, you know, remote work and computer land. And
Yeah.
so I'm the cyborg becoming one with the machine. And I'm like, I don't just need to touch grass. I need to become one with nature. Like I need to bury
Rewild.
myself into the ground for a minute and then just you know, let the earthworms, feel me, through the soil.
You need to touch some roots, not just some grass.
Right? I need to hug the tree. I need to
Hmm.
climb the tree. I need to be all up in the tree's business.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I need to int. I need to int real hard.
Yeah. I'm with you. I want to end together.
Yeah. And then we're gonna end and we're gonna have like our little underground root network and we're gonna be like smoochy smoochy in our
Tree
roots,
love.
you know? Tree love, baby.
Right?
Right?
Beautiful. So we're working on it. We're
We're
working on
working
it.
on it. So I'm thankful for you, grateful for you,
Same. I'm
um,
grateful for you.
making people happen and keeping me from setting everything on fire.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay.
All right. Until next time.
Mhm.